The early morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the cozy living room, painting the walls in soft hues of gold. Sarah placed a steaming cup of coffee on the kitchen counter and glanced out into the garden where her son, Michael, played with his toy truck. The sound of his giggles filled the air, and she felt a familiar warmth bloom in her chest. John, her husband of 10 years, leaned over the kitchen island with a tablet in hand, dressed in his usual crisp shirt and tie. He caught her looking and smiled. "Big day at work today?" she asked. Their life was idyllic. A charming house with a sprawling garden, a thriving career for John, and a happy, healthy child. Sarah stayed busy managing the home and spending time with Michael. She had every reason to feel content, or so she thought. 6 months ago, Alex came into their lives. A quiet man in his late 20s, Alex was hired to help with the house and garden. He quickly proved invaluable, assisting with tasks Sarah didn't have the time or energy for. Michael adored him, and even John remarked on Alex's reliability. At first, Sarah barely noticed him beyond his work, but that changed on a quiet evening when the house felt just a little too empty. It was late, and Sarah had just returned from running errands. John was still at work, and the house was silent except for the soft ticking of the kitchen clock. She found Alex at the table, reading a book. "You're still here?" she asked, surprised. "I thought I'd wait until you got home," he replied, closing the book. "Just in case you needed anything." Touched by his thoughtfulness, Sarah poured herself a cup of tea and sat across from him. For the first time, she looked at him not just as the man who cleaned the house or trimmed the hedges, but as someone with his own story. They talked for hours. Alex told her about his life in another city, his family that he rarely saw, and his dreams for the future. There was something about the way he spoke, his quiet confidence mixed with vulnerability, that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. When John left for a 3-day business trip a week later, Sarah found herself anticipating the evenings when Alex stayed late. They shared dinner after Michael went to bed, and their conversations flowed easily. One night, the air between them shifted. She couldn't explain why, but when Alex looked at her with those kind, steady eyes, she leaned in and kissed him. It was fleeting, just a brush of lips, but it left Sarah reeling. Guilt hit her like a wave as she pulled away. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That was a mistake." Alex didn't argue or try to justify it. He simply nodded, his expression unreadable. Sarah vowed it wouldn't happen again, but the fire she felt in Alex's presence was impossible to ignore. A few days later, when John was still away, she kissed Alex again. This time it was longer, deeper, and neither of them stopped. When John returned, life seemed to fall back into its regular rhythm, at least on the surface. Sarah tried to focus on her family, but her thoughts were consumed by Alex. Guilt gnawed at her, yet she couldn't deny the rush she felt in those stolen moments. Then one evening, while tidying the house, Sarah noticed John's phone buzzing on the counter. The screen lit up with a message, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, Lisa." Her stomach turned. She scrolled through the thread and found more messages, each one more damning than the last. John had been meeting Lisa, a colleague from work, for months. Anger and hurt warred within her, but Sarah realized the bitter irony. She was no better than John. Both had betrayed the marriage they had vowed to cherish. One quiet night after dinner, she made a decision. With Michael asleep and Alex gone for the evening, Sarah sat across from John in the living room. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice shaky. John frowned, setting his tablet aside. "What's wrong?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, John broke it. "Who?" Sarah confessed everything about Alex, the kisses, the nights they spent talking, and the guilt that had consumed her. She cried as she spoke, apologizing over and over, expecting John to lash out. Instead, he simply said, "I've been seeing someone too." In the days that followed, Sarah and John sat together, unraveling the tangled mess of their emotions. They talked about what had gone wrong, the growing distance between them, the loneliness Sarah felt, and the stress John carried from work. They agreed to let Alex go. It was a painful decision, especially for Michael, who adored him, but it was necessary. They also decided to go to marriage counseling, hoping to rebuild what they had broken. Counseling was hard. Sarah had to confront why she had turned to Alex, admitting how John's long hours and emotional distance had left her feeling invisible. John, in turn, confessed how the attention from Lisa had made him feel valued during a time when he felt like a failure at home. Slowly, they began to rebuild. They spent more time together, had honest conversations, and created new rules for their relationship: no more secrets, no more hiding. A year later, Sarah and John took a weekend trip to a quiet beach town. It was their first getaway without Michael since he was born. As they walked along the shore on their last evening, John pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple yet elegant wedding ring. "I want us to start fresh," he said. "A new ring for a new chapter." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she slipped the ring onto her finger. "I love you," she said. "I love you too," John replied. Back home, life settled into a new rhythm. Michael thrived, and Sarah and John grew closer than ever. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but it was real. They had learned that love wasn't just about the good times, it was about surviving the storms together. Though the past couldn't be erased, it had taught them invaluable lessons about trust, forgiveness, and the power of second chances. Shattered vows, mended hearts is a testament to the resilience of love and the strength found in vulnerability. Through their mistakes, Sarah and John discovered that even broken things can be made beautiful again.
I hope you like my video. If you like this story, so hit the like button and share it with your friends, and subscribe English Tales by Allicia for more story, and press the bell icon. Take care, goodbye.